So now that we have a quorum, I think we can get started with the roll call.
Vasconcelos,
Here.
Oesiger, here. Carlson, Brigadier General Donnellan,
Here.
Cunningham, Westergaard, here. Nancolis, Agent, Willett.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item of business is approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a motion?
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So with that, Rebecca, we're ready for your director's report.
Excellent. Well, good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Glad everyone was able to find parking today. It's been a little bit tight on our parking, which is great. It means we have lots of passengers coming through the airport and lots of things happening. So I'll just dive right into our director's report. Or maybe I won't because it's not working. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So we always start off with an operational view of some of the things that we've been working on. Obviously, runways are critically important to our operation here, and we do have to close them periodically for routine maintenance. Sometimes it's airport maintenance, sometimes it's FAA tech ops. You can see we had a handful of closures during the month of September, mostly for routine maintenance. You also probably noticed when you came in this morning that our public garage is well underway, and you can really start to see the progress now that we're out of the ground and the project is moving up vertically. We have the concrete placed on the second floor deck. The northwest surface lot, they're continuing to work on that, so it will be ready. And the pedestrian bridge, the fascia was installed. So that is definitely starting to take shape. A huge shout out to Jill, who is our project manager on this one. Employee parking garage, again, really moving forward. This one is a little behind the other one. That's by design. We're working on the public garage first and simultaneously working on the employee garage. At this point, the underground utility work is continuing, but you're starting to see the shape of the garage taking place with the columns and the retaining walls. And then, of course, the vapor barrier and stair elevator slab was also installed. As you come through the TSA checkpoint, you can see there's some walls up there and panels. This is what's happening behind the walls. You can see we have demolition that's happening in the previous gift shop area. We've actually moved the doors, and I'll see if I can move these. You can see it a little better. You can see the doors. They're working on the terrazzo floor. The fish art's been removed and secure storage. And then the temporary wall relocation is going to actually happen on October 11th. Taxi Lane Sierra. This project is being spearheaded by Marcus and Renee. And I think Jen is maybe working on this some too. But Taxi Lane Sierra, this is widening that taxiway for the new cargo apron. And we've completed the paving. This is for the Amazon cargo facility. So there's really 3 phases to this project. There's the taxi lane widening. There's the actual facility and infrastructure itself, which includes the building and the parking lot, which is Amazon doing that work. And then we are also doing some roadway improvements over in that area. Taxi Lane November and Taxi Lane Sierra. This is a phase 2 extension. This is over by the Al Scott hangar. This is going to give us additional access into these hangar areas. FAA is requiring a 35-day closure of taxiway Alpha between the 2 taxiways, and the safety risk assessment, which some of you may have been through that process. I don't know if Commissioner Bosinger or General Donlin have been through the safety risk assessment process with the FAA, but every time we do a construction project on the airfield, we do a safety risk assessment. and they determined it would be safest if we close part of the runway during that time. This is a little behind the scenes. This is something that probably passengers don't think about, but is actually critical to the operation, is de-icing and glycol storage. And we are in the process of moving these tanks. I think that this is actually Renee's project. She's been working on this. And they are moving their tanks. They were in an area that will be occupied by the new concourse in the future, and their lease expired, so we're having them move their tanks. Harvard Street closure commission, prior to this commission, some of these new commissioners being here, but some of you will remember this. We had this discussion. This is over by Ed Stinson Way. We're actually closing off part of that street as part of a property exchange with the guard for some land that we're taking back over by Sky West. And we're giving them this. This actually helps them with their force protection. And so we expect that this will be completed by early November. And then we always do routine paving and maintenance. This year's paving and maintenance project is actually the North General Aviation. This is over by Jackson Jet Center. The pavement was actually very worn and deteriorated, needed to be repaved so we can prevent foreign object damage. And we are expanding our economy lot. As I mentioned earlier, parking has been at a premium at the airport. We're adding 350 new spaces approximately. This will be on the northwest side, and it will be ready before Thanksgiving, which will be fantastic because I forecast and predict that we will need every one of those spaces. This is an exciting project we've talked about before. Many members of the commission were here when we started this process with the request for proposals for development of this property, and we entered into a master developer agreement with Boise Industrial Holdings, which is part of the Adler Group. And this was approved by council yesterday. It also adds 2 more parcels that are not depicted here, 75 acres to this master developer agreement. We already have 2 leases that will go to council on October 11th. One will be, they're both for food manufacturing. It's not public yet where they are or what they are, but one is 5 acres, 92,000 square feet. And then the other one is 10 acres, includes an 84,000 square foot building. So those are the two facilities that are currently being constructed. It's exciting to see that process come to fruition. To orient you, let's see, this here is Cole Road, and this is Victory Road. So, and parking. I like to talk about parking a lot lately. It's on the forefront of my mind. We're busier than expected in the month of September. To put this in perspective, just so you all have a comparison, we had more people parked in the parking lot, and our parking lot was actually busier in September than it was in July, which is usually our busiest month. So we were monitoring our parking very closely. We have implemented the valet. We started that in July. It's been very, very popular with travelers. We've had over 560 passengers using the valet in August. And obviously, as we look at the upcoming holiday travel season, we'll be developing some contingency plans for peak parking. We've talked a fair amount as well about our airline use and lease agreements. We are coming to a conclusion with that process. We have our leases have been extended through January 1, like we talked about last time. Our current lease, that gives us enough time to iron out the final details, get the airlines the contracts for review, and have them return them to us by for signature with their signatures and for execution by the city The new contracts will go into effect on January 1. And if we do not have a new contract signed by then, we will pivot and go to rates by resolution, which we've talked about beforehand, and that will be going to council in October. So that will be in place so that if we do not have existing agreements, we'll be using rates by resolution. So we're fully covered, but we are getting very, very close on this. We're also in the process of finalizing an agreement with Clear. You maybe have seen them in other airports. It's a trusted traveler program, similar but different from PreCheck and Global Entry. As part of our security screening expansion, we're working with them to install their Clear facilities. We have an office lease with them, and now we're working on an operating agreement that will go to council later this month. We expect that pending council approval will be operational in November. We have a number of things going on at the airport. We often get inquiries about what's happening and what projects there are and what opportunities there are to do work with the airport. So Matt and his team hosted an open house. We couldn't actually host it at the airport because our parking was full, so we hosted it at a nearby hotel. And we invited members of the American Institute of Architects, the American Council of Engineering Companies, and the Association of General Contractors. It was very well attended. We had over 40 individuals attend, representing 26 companies. I always like to highlight some of our new employees. She's not here. She's actually in the credentialing office this morning, but we have a new credentialing supervisor, Stephanie Dwyer. And if you have a need to have an airport badge, you will probably see her at some point. August employments, travel continues to be up. We're up 6% compared to August of 2019, and also obviously up over 2021. And passenger travel for 2022 continues to be up over 7%. We obviously don't have the final numbers for September yet. We're only 2 days into the month. We don't have those reported, but all indications are that September was a very strong month based on the throughput through the TSA checkpoint. These are our top 10 operating revenues. You can see revenue is up substantially, mostly due to parking and concessions. Operating expenses are also up. Again, a lot of that is due to parking concessions, our parking management, running the shuttle, credit cards. We've talked about the indirect cost reimbursement. That's because we've incorporated some software costs in there, so that will continue to look high until that becomes part of our normal reporting. And then engineering services is up substantially because of all of the engineering and planning that we're doing here. And that concludes my director's report. Happy to stand for questions from the commission.
Questions?
The Clear, I'm excited to hear Clear is coming. Will that mean that you can go through the TSA process right here, or do you have to still do an application on site?
You do have to do a TSA application. I think that they will take applications here as part of their enrollment process, but I would have to confirm that for you. I vaguely remember someone mentioning to me that they would take applications here, but exactly what that entails, I don't know.
The taxiway at the closure, how long is that going to be? Do you know?
Looking at Matt, I think the
Probably
report,
about 30 days,
I was gonna say, I think the report said 35 days.
up to 35 days. yeah.
It's between taxi lane A1 and taxi lane November, so it's just that small swap.
Oh, okay.
So
Thank you for the clarification.
I have a couple questions, but when will Clear be operational?
November, mid-November.
November. Okay. And from what you're saying, they will be doing enrollment here. Will it be a permanent thing?
That is the thing, not the clarification for. That's my recollection that someone said that they would be doing it here, but whether they're just taking the applications here and there's more that you need to do, that I can't say with certainty.
No, I think they have to get eye and fingerprints.
Yes, they use biometrics, so they either scan your eye or your fingerprint, but just because you're enrolled in Clear doesn't automatically mean you're enrolled in PreCheck. They're two separate but related processes.
On that, I was kind of surprised to learn this week that TSA Pre doesn't have an enrollment apparently at the airport. I guess they did on and off. Is that right?
That is correct. TSA PreCheck, they'll do enrollment events at the airport and take appointments for enrolling people in PreCheck. We've hosted several of them here. We have not hosted one since the pandemic. You also can enroll in Global Entry, and you can do that processing here at Customs, but you have to fill out the application online, get cleared, but they do Global Entry processing at Customs in Boise.
Thank you. Commissioners' comments. Carrie, do you have anything?
Well, I just want to compliment the staff, the team. I heard several presentations in the community. So for your outreach on everything that's going on here, because you live it every day and everyone that comes here sees, the parking and there's no parking. And so it's really great. I think I've heard from each of your team members, Rebecca, Sean, and Shauna. So thank you for getting out there.
General?
Just kind of echo what Carrie said. The pace can be exhausting, and we're seeing that, I think, across the board. So it's impressive to see leadership, but also the team that you have here, where you guys just keep going. We feel that on the guard side as well, but also with the growth, just the sheer volume of traffic and passengers that are coming through. So you're affecting that, and you're affecting the entire state. So thanks for what you do. Hang in there. Get some vacation. Talk to your boss. Thank you.
I don't have much. I went down to the Reno Air Races last month, and there's a lot of GA folks in Boise that actually race down there. There's quite a good contingent of racers from Boise. So if you see the fancy old World War II airplanes that may be going around every once in a while, they were practicing for Reno. That was a lot of fun going down there, and it was fun to see a local contingent from Idaho represent.
So did you fly or drive?
Well, I flew, of course.
Flew. Your own plane.
I did, yeah.
Okay. It's a little tough to fly to Reno otherwise.
Yeah, and it was really smoky. So there was a fire right near Reno. So yeah, I did take a Cessna, took a plane load of people just for fun, and actually crewed for one of the jet classes there in the Mount Conklin one. So that was pretty fun to be a part of that. But there was, like I said, some other racers in Caldwell and Nampa and Idaho that they raced too, and it was just really fun to be a part of.
So toward the end of last month, I had a business trip to San Jose airport, took Alaska from Boise and flew back on Southwest. That went really well. What didn't go so well is that our conference sponsor decided it would be a great idea to have Ubers pick people up at the airports. And when the Uber drivers found out that they had to take me to Half Moon Bay, which is about an hour drive from San Jose, they very sneakily just went away and passed me by. So luckily I had a fraternity brother that lives in San Jose. We were meeting for breakfast anyway. So he picked me up, but long story short, you have to be careful where you're taking Ubers to, I guess. So that was a lesson learned. That's all I've got. New business?
All right, on new business, I thought this is the time of year where I like to share with commission what we're working on, what we've done over the last year. Some of this will be a repeat of things that we just talked about. Some of it will be new. So I thought it would be good to just recap what we did last year and then what we're working on coming up this year. So we've really divided these into a couple different areas, the airport infrastructure improvements, some of the achievements that we've seen, excuse me, some of the successes we've seen in air service, some of the things we've been working on with our properties and tenants, and then just some of the other miscellaneous categories. I'll start by noting that the airport was awarded just under $1 million in FAA grants under the bipartisan infrastructure law. It was all focused around energy efficiency, adding an electric boiler, reducing our reliance on natural gas, updating some of our skylights to prevent heat loss. And this was part of the airport terminal program. So it was a very specific part of that infrastructure law, and we had to compete for it for discretionary funds. We talked about this a little bit in the director's report. We talk about it, seems like every month, but it's a substantial project and it's a big deal. The exit plaza for the new garage opened in August. That was the phase 1 completion. We continue to move that forward. That will be complete in 2023. So we'll just keep talking about it for the next 6 months. This is the construction. You can see the artist's rendering on the left, and you can see it actually starting to take shape on the right, which is exciting. And we are actually targeting an early completion of this project. It should be completed ahead of schedule in spring of 23. Employee garage construction, we talked about this already, but it is obviously a substantial project that we're working on. TSA Checkpoint, again, I touched on this in the director's report. This is our second upgrade to the checkpoint in 3 years. It's scheduled to be 180 days. We'll have this completed shortly after Christmas. We'll be pausing on this project during Thanksgiving and Christmas, so we're not impeding the holiday travel season. We didn't talk very much about this in the director's report or even in some of my previous reports, but this is really important. This is a runway environmental assessment for the runway reconfiguration. FAA made some recommendations for reconfiguring our airfield to comply with current design standards. And this is, the initial phase of that process is the environmental assessment. And so the actual study will be published next year. This is another project that we've worked quite a bit on this year. It's a very substantial project. It's our consolidated rental car facility. It will be constructed right here adjacent to the airport terminal. So you still will not have to take a shuttle to catch a rental car in Boise, which is very important to our passengers and to our rental car tenants. We expect that we'll be breaking ground on this in 23. So 22 has been focused on design. We'll start construction on that in 23. It's a 2-year construction project, so we'll probably be talking about that for the next 2 years. But phase 1 includes the walkway, the ready return areas, and the staging areas. And then you'll recall there's actually a second phase to this project that will start in 27, ideally. And so we will be talking about this for years to come, but it'll be exciting to watch it come to fruition. This is another project that we haven't talked a great deal about, but it is important. We are installing ground support equipment that actually allows the aircraft to be heated and cooled using ground power units, which reduces their reliance on fuel while they're on the ground. It helps them to be cleaner where we're in a non-attainment maintenance area for air quality. This is really important, and this was installed on the west cargo apron over by UPS. It's a project that we worked on this year. Again, we didn't talk about this project in much detail, but this was a partnership project with our IT department, so huge kudos to them. And it was a cross-departmental project team. Obviously, we had airport folks involved as well, but it upgraded all of our electronic video display units in the terminal and also on the sign. If you've noticed, we have a lot more flexibility with our roadway sign now, where we can add messages, including terminal parking is full, use the economy lot. Very important. Snow removal equipment building completed. This is one of those operational things that we haven't talked about in great detail, but there is an old aircraft rescue and firefighting station that's right outside of the terminal. If you're ever on the air side, if you board from Alaska, you've probably seen it. That has to go away because it needs to be removed for the new concourse. And so we have equipment that's stored in there. And this building was designed to replace that building. So this is an enabling project and that we completed this year. Taxiway Gulf, the construction was completed. It did not meet FAA design standards. It was in the middle third of the runways. So it was relocated to outside the middle third. That's considered to be a high impact area. Construction completed in December of 2021, which seems like a long time ago, but actually was part of this fiscal year. Again, just routine rehab, maintenance and repairs, but needs to be done and still a substantial project. We talked about this already a little bit, but the airline use and lease agreements, this was a huge project. We really hadn't updated those in about a decade, at least, probably more than that. And so to have a new agreement with current terms and conditions has been a huge undertaking and an important part of our work this year. Something that we did not foresee was having to do an airline competition plan. You may recall that was required when we became a medium hub because we have more than 50% of our passenger traffic is carried by 2 airlines. And so this was required by FAA and approved by them earlier this year. We also welcomed 2 new airlines. The first time, well, I was going to say the first time since we welcomed the Legion in 2012, but we did welcome JetBlue last year in 2021. But before that, the last time we welcomed a new airline to Boise was back in 2012 with Allegiant. So we have the Spirit Airlines nonstop to Vegas, and they've now changed that to daily. And we've welcomed VALE to Boise with flights to Burbank. And as I recall, they are also increasing their frequency on that route. So both routes are performing well. And we also have a couple of new nonstop destinations that were introduced this year, Idaho Falls and Burbank, and then increased frequency to Atlanta. And we talked about this last month, but this continues to be true. Boise Airport is recovering faster than the national average top 10 airports for passenger recovery. And we talked about this last month rather. And we just talked about this in the director's report, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it here because it was a very substantial project that we started at the very beginning of the fiscal year, and it will continue. We're not quite done yet, but we will be done by November. So, and we talked about this as well, the non-aeronautical property, the rezone. These were the 75 acres that I had mentioned earlier and are now included in that master developer agreement. And then these projects that I just mentioned earlier as well in my director's report with the 2 new leases for 2 new projects in this area. And then this is not an airport project, but as we see things continue to develop at the airport, Jackson Jet Center acquired Firehawk, and we assigned their land lease. They're actually subleasing to Firehawk with the intent of actually adding another hangar in that vacant lot between where Firehawk is currently located in the existing Jackson Jet Center facility. So we'll see some changes in those leased areas in the next year. We've talked multiple times about the organization assessment and our staffing needs at the airport to be able to continue to accomplish all of the projects that we're working on. We conducted the assessment, updated it in 2022, and we'll be working to implement the recommendations in 23. This is just a recap. We're looking at adding up to 70 full-time positions in the next 5 years. We have 25 new positions that are included in this budget year. You can see the list of positions here. Some of them are frontline, like custodial, airfield maintenance, operations, and then some of them are for positions that are really specialized. A grants analyst, an electrician, another person to work on properties as we develop some of these non-aeronautical properties, a data analyst. Some of these things are pretty specific, and another engineer to help with our airfield engineering projects. We also hosted the Triennial exercise. We've talked about that before, but that is a huge undertaking that we do once every 3 years. It's obviously incredibly important that we are prepared for any situation. And this is a very heavy lift by Alex and his team. So curbside valet, that's a new addition to service that we're offering in Boise. I can't stress how important it's been for us to have this additional service, not only for passenger convenience, but also to be able to add additional parking capacity. And then I don't know that we've talked about this in any great detail in any of the airport commission meetings, but we did submit a new passenger facility charge application. This is incredibly important. It is a major funding source for us and enables us to fund the projects that you see here. So when we talk about taxiway reconstruction or relocation or expanding the ice pads, for example, checkpoint expansion, lobby expansion, those projects, this is the funding mechanism that we do use for a number of those projects. And it's a fairly complex process. It's very regulated. We have to do a consultation with the airlines, and then we have to notify them of the meeting, and then have to apply to the FAA, and they have to approve it, and then the airlines have time to comment. So it's a pretty intensive process. And we did work on that this year with passenger facility charge number 7. And we also adjusted our customer facility charge. That's the fee that gets charged on the rental cars. That's how we pay for our rental car facilities, including the upcoming consolidated rental car facility. We went from $4.25 to $6 a day. I would say that's in line with what we're seeing across the industry. And it will, again, be used to pay for future car rental developments. Very exciting. We didn't really talk too much about this. I think I maybe have mentioned this once before, but our bond rating was affirmed. That's incredibly important as we're looking at going out to bond for the new car rental facility. That'll be about a $60 to $70 million bond issuance. So it's very important that we maintain a strong bond rating. Seems like we came out of the pandemic and hibernation, and everyone went, oh, we have an airport. So anyway, lots of recognition this last year, which I'm grateful for, but it's really, as we all know, nothing substantial gets done alone. It's all part of our team and the work that they do. So thanks to Carrie and her team for that recognition at the Rose Awards. We're going to pivot and talk about 2023, what things we're working on in 23. Some of these things you'll see are the same because they're multi-year projects. But these things will continue to take shape: the public garage, the employee garage, and the consolidated rental car facility will have a groundbreaking. And then the checkpoint expansion will be complete this year as well. We'll continue our work on our airfield development. Again, these were improvements that came out of the airport master plan and recommendations to make sure that our airfield complies with current design standards. It basically, you can see the red is the facilities and the pavement that will be going away, and the green is the pavement that will be added. You can see they're at angles and odd geometry, and so this is designed to make the geometry consistent and have everything be at right angles to the runway. And there are lots of things on here that are just listed. Each of them represents a major project. So we'll continue with the runway improvements and the environmental assessment. We're going to do a feasibility study on more voluntary airport low emission equipment. And you can't really see this here at the bottom. We're going to be working with the airlines, excuse me, on a fuel farm feasibility study. That is going to be a huge undertaking, but the airlines are looking at forming a fuel consortium where they actually buy and store fuel in their own facility here at the airport. So we'll be looking at that with them. And then we have a number of agreements that are up for renewal this year, including our parking management RFP, our concessions, and our rental cars. So substantial work on the business development side there. And then we'll be issuing bonds for that consolidated car rental facility. So each of those very substantial projects from an administrative perspective. And then we'll be partnering with the Guard to host Gowen Thunder in 2023. Really excited about that. That will be in August. But as you can imagine, that takes a substantial amount of coordination with the Guard and with our airline partners and other stakeholders. So. And hopefully, I'm sure there will be other things that come up. But those are the major initiatives that we have planned for 2023. So I would be happy to take questions on those, if there are any.
But it's related, it's not that your list is inadequate, because I can't imagine being busier than that. However, there was a Statesman article that talked about the commercial development south of on Orchard Road and mentioned the ACHD Orchard realignment. Has that been moved up, and is the airport getting in front of moving that? Because that's all airport property on that. Are you guys
To the east of the existing orchard? Yes, we're tracking that. I don't know that that has been confirmed. The dates for that have been confirmed. That area, as you may or may not know, is an old landfill. And so it's going to require some environmental remediation. And so we are working through that. Not surprisingly, we do have groups that are interested in developing that airport area if and when that road is realigned. And, you know, there definitely are projects that we're tracking that could come to fruition if that happens. But it's going to be a little bit more complicated, I think, because of the existing environmental issues. I don't have a timeline. Matt, do you have a timeline on the orchard? We've
I
talked
believe
about it.
construction start is currently scheduled for 26. And it's probably a 18-month, 2-year type process to build that.
I was just curious as to where they park the cars when they do valet parking.
Anywhere.
How's the security?
So right now, we're parking a substantial number of them here in this area that's labeled Conrack. That's where the old ITD hangar is, and there's a parking lot there. We have not demolished the ITD hangar yet. And so they're using that parking lot. They're using the US Bank parking lot and one other parking lot. And then when we run out of spaces in those parking lots, then it really is almost wherever we can find 4 or 5 spots. To put it in perspective, the consolidated rental car lot where the ITD hangar is, there's almost 90 spaces there that they're using. It's about 85, 90 spaces. The US Bank lot's probably another 60 spaces. The other lot probably has 40 or 50. And then we really are getting into five spots here, 10 spots there.
And the bond you talked about, will that be for the rental facility, the consolidated?
It will be for the rental facility only for the first phase. And then it will be about $65–70 million.
And what is the second phase?
The second phase is where they're going to do all of the quick turns. So the fueling, the car wash, the vacuuming. So think of it as phase one is going to be basically their storeroom, their storefront. And then phase two will be what they call the back of house, where they're doing all of the maintenance and stuff. So they're going to, during the first couple of years, they're going to continue to do that other stuff off-site and have just the,
But phase one will have the parking spaces.
oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I think Matt presented on that last month, the rental car facilities.
Last question is the passenger facility charge. What's it going from and to?
So that is, the passenger facility charge is actually regulated. The maximum fee that we can attach is $4.50. And it's per airline ticket. The way that it is charged, it's charged the first 2 airports that you encounter generally. So if you go from Boise to Atlanta, let's say, and then on to another destination, you would be charged a maximum of $9. And then in the reverse, let's say you were in Savannah, coming back to Atlanta, it would be charged in Savannah and Atlanta, but not in Boise.
Thank you.
Can I ask one
Sure.
question? Do you have, and sorry if I missed that, forecasting for 23? Do you have any idea if we're gonna keep increasing the way we have with passenger loads, or is it projected to be flatter? Your crystal ball.
That's a great question. I think if we go back up to the simple flying, we do not have any projections, and I did not talk about projections. And it's funny because people will always say to me, Rebecca, how did you not predict that we were going to have these passenger increases? And I say, if I had predicted it, you wouldn't have believed me. So, I mean, if I had said at the beginning of the pandemic, we're going to add 6 new destinations and 2 new airlines, and passenger travel is going to be up, 5 to 10% above where we were over our peak year, no one would have believed me, but that's where we are. So I really have not tried to predict where we will be in 2023, just knowing that we will probably continue to grow above the national average is my guess. You can see this is based on the number of seats available. So this was October of 2022 compared to October of 2019. This information is already a little bit old, but it shows that passenger seats available are up 18%. And I would say passenger travel usually tracks pretty closely with the number of seats. Airlines don't add seats to markets that they don't think they can sell. So it probably won't be 18%, but it would not be surprising to me to see double digits. I'm hopeful that we don't see double digits. I mean, it would be nice, but I would not be at all surprised to see us over 5%. Of course, it depends on if there's a recession too. I'll just throw that out there. So my crystal ball is hazy.
Okay. I think it's time for public comment. If we have anybody from the public that would like to address the commission. I don't see anybody, so. Unless we have something else, I think we can adjourn.
I'm gonna move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.